Chapter 8, Language and Speech. We are so accustomed to speech in our everyday intercourse, that the possibility of a more rapid means of communication seldom engages our attention. So it was with much interest that the following was received.
Mind moves here with a quickness not to be expressed in words. We use pictures and symbols largely because a thought can be more quickly expressed in that way. And we have trouble at all times with earth language, and particularly when trying to express spiritual conditions. But all are taught to speak the earth language so that we may help those who are there. We do not need to talk to convey our ideas, but we can speak whenever we wish, and oratory and poetry and lessons are given in word language. But in ordinary intercourse, ideas flash from mind to mind without need for words. We speak with spirit organs as we use other spirit perceptions, and our language is beautiful, and the speech musical.
This was all noted in our record, but among the hundreds of pages of other matter it was for the time lost sight of, and though some reference was made to telepathy 2 or 3 times, it so happened that speech was not mentioned. One evening Mary said,
"We can give you a few sentences if you like, from one who has just wandered into the circle and wishes to try to communicate. I will do the writing. He says that he is not gifted in expression, and has not been here long enough to acquire the eloquence of the spirit language, but he would like to convey a thought to earth for those who are listening for heavenly words."
Now this is hardly the place or occasion for this appeal, but I am after the closing sentence of this quotation as an illustration, and the plea is so earnest that I am including the whole of it. He said,
"Go forward, let nothing discourage or keep you back. Tell the truth. Plant the seed by wayside, in desert place, or in fertile ground, and trust to the harvest to win souls into the truth. The truth is more beautiful than I can express. If only a tithe of it could be comprehended by earth mortals, the world would be fair indeed, and sin would soon fade from sight. This is the truth to spread abroad. Do not be discouraged though you seem to fail. The harvest will surely come and souls will be led into righteousness and will forget to do evil. Children will be brought into loving service. Ministers will stop arguing about creeds and will teach the love and patience of Christ. Can you visualize a world in which the spirit life shall be the goal, and service to others the ordinary way of living? Go forward, I say again and yet again. Go forward."
Mary says, he is in earnest and realizes the need of earth. He was not a minister on earth, but nevertheless a worker for right living and right thinking, and the knowledge acquired here has made him still more earnest.
Does he hear what we say?
Yes, he hears fairly well, and I have told him some of your discouragements. You see, we can convey thought so quickly that I could tell him of these things even while writing.
It was this idea that led me to again ask, do you have anything analogous to spoken language?
Yes, and yes again. We have speech, and plenty of it. But if thought flashes from soul to soul without speech, then it is quicker than any words, is it not? The spirit language is more in thought than in sentences. For instance, you may realize how at times a thought may suggest to you an entire picture, or an entire subject. Thus it is with us. Thought moves quickly and catches the sense of the expression before an entire sentence could be formed. This, however, might not apply to scientific explanations, nor perhaps to deep philosophy, when great accuracy would be necessary.
Then how would you express an abstract statement?
That would depend upon the subject to be explained. A word might answer, or a book of explanations might happen to be the way.
How would you convey the idea of goodness, for instance?
An action of goodness or kindness might be expressed pictorially. The abstract virtue would require longer definition. Our language is one of exceeding exactness, as well as of great beauty. There is nothing of the human language with which to compare it. You remember how I tried to give you some semblance of a spirit word, and utterly failed. So, we cannot give you our expressions, But you must take it for granted that language here is the highest type of expression, both in beauty and in its power of conveying thought.
On arriving there, do you learn it as we would learn a new language here?
We learn it, but not by the old slow methods of earth life. We absorb it as a flower absorbs dew, or the earth absorbs rain.
When we arrive, we will have to learn it then before we can understand much.
You will know from the first that love and kindness are here and surrounding you. Then you will know the words that express them. Afterward, other thoughts will express themselves to you by the attitude or movement of friends, even as a child learns its mother's motions and expressions. And so, with a quickness you can hardly realize, you will acquire the language of this sphere. It grows and grows rapidly. Can you understand?
Does a knowledge of languages here aid one after arriving there?
I do not think so. Thought telegraphs to thought, and the language matters little. Consider the power of thought impressions even when not connected with language. Animals have this sensitiveness well developed, and many humans are also sensitive to thought waves.
While assembling the matter for this book, Mary and Dee have asked occasionally about our progress, and when one time I mentioned the title of this chapter, Mary added the following.
The language here is partly symbol, partly flashes of thought or perception. These are beside and beyond our spoken language, which is more eloquent and of wider range than any known on earth. Our speakers are numerous in the halls of learning, and convey knowledge in wonderful terms. Yet always there are suggestions that arouse pictures or thought in the mind. We listen to eloquence that is thrilling, and we listen to statements that are so clear and terse that we cannot fail of understanding.
I asked if their language had changed as had ours through the passing centuries, or was it the same it had always been?
Language is capable of expansion, and our language grows and becomes more rich as it seeks to interpret new thought and wider experience. Memory does not let go as easily here as there, and while we add new expressions, we keep the old ones too. You have almost an entire change in the English language since the early poets. We have not changed in that way because our construction is more perfect to start with. Any change is more in the expression, to take in new thought and new experience, like travels to other planets, or growing in touch with other lives or other speech.
It was in the first place a little surprising to learn that one would need to know a different language in the spirit world, but an additional surprise came when we found there were still other languages. A friend said,
I am trying to learn the language of the different spheres that I may understand the expressions of those on higher planes.
Is there a different language on each plane?
Yes, it takes on more delicate shadings. A more ethereal quality perhaps might express it, as it deals with more ethereal things. These languages are translated by the different messengers. We need to know the manner of expression to translate their words into something meaning as nearly as possible the same. Our language is not capable of expressing their finest shades of meaning. And if we of this sphere cannot translate it into adequate expression, what can mortal language do? I tell you, my friend, only a tithe of the higher teachings can get through our duller comprehension. Therefore I study and hope to be able to understand at least, whether I can give out the ideas to others in language eloquent enough or forcible enough to express what they wish to say.
A messenger spoke of the need for further knowledge of languages as follows.
There are worlds not so immersed in material thought as the earth, worlds where spirit predominates, and where communication with the unseen becomes a natural occupation with the people. It is one of our delightful tasks to go to such worlds to give and receive information. To make more easy such communication is part of our work, for language differs, and signs and symbols often have to be used. Yet when spirit predominates, comprehension is easy without any language, just a reception of the idea without any spoken word.
The difficulty of expression was again mentioned when we read one evening the beautiful sonnet that is attributed to the spirit of P. W. H. Myers. A sonnet. To all who wait, blindfolded by the flesh. upon the stammered promise that we give. Tangling ourselves in the material mesh. A moment, while we tell you that we live. Greeting, and reassurance, never doubt. That the slow tidings of our joyful state, so hardly given, so haltingly made out, are but the creaking hinges of the gate. Beyond, the garden lies, and as we turn, wondering how much you hear, how much you guess, once more the roses of glad service burn, with hues of loving thought and thankfulness. Once more we move among them, strong and free, marveling yet in our felicity.
The poem is true. If only you could see our difficulty of expression, you would be patient with misunderstandings. We are not so in touch with material language and thought as to be able to express the marvels of this life by material words or imagery. We are of different conditions and different expression, yet we try to become material for the moment, that we may help you to understand. But often the language fails, and we are confused by lack of right words.
I don't remember now what made me ask the following question, but I do remember the surprise with which I received the reply. I asked D. Are you known by your old name there?
No, I have another name here. But with Earth friends I keep the Earth name.
Are all names different there?
We all have different names here, but we love to hear the old familiar names from friends there. We take names more suitable for ethereal qualities.
We asked what determined the name.
Names here apply to character more than to fancy, and we know each other by some distinguishing characteristic. But all names are musical and good to hear.
But you are all good and are all perfect, so it would seem that you would all have the same names.
No, that is your conception of this life, but you are far from comprehending. Personal characteristics are as pronounced here as they are there, except that we do not have the distinction of being faulty, or awkward, or homely, or sinful, as people on earth might have, if called by their distinguishing characteristics.
I should think that you would run out of names in so great a multitude.
You do not realize the variety of attributes here. But even so, think how many there are of the same name on your plane. It does no harm to have the same name repeated here any more than it does there.
I asked what my name would be, and was told.
We will not tell you, though we think we know it already.
Who gives it to me?
It grows. It is written all over you.
I was talking at one time through the pencil with my father. I felt that he would get great pleasure in the wonderful opportunities for knowledge, and he assured me that this was so, and spoke of the great libraries there.
You will never be happier than when you see the wonderful libraries and the wonderful knowledge expressed in them. Different from earth libraries, but the word may express what I mean.
Can you give us any impression of how knowledge is thus stored?
It is also intangible to your way of expression. I do not know that I can describe it. But if you can picture wireless telegraphy as impressing itself in words that can be read, if you can think of thought expressing itself almost simultaneously, flashing itself on pages, perhaps you can get an idea of the way books are formed. There are such great minds here, and the greatest of Earth's writers find their powers so exalted and so easily expressed, that books may appear without labor. We have libraries, and there are books, and knowledge comes easily to those who seek. Clairvoyance might express it somewhat, an illumination that presents the thought without effort. This on the part of the reader. The writer gives his thought inspirationally, and the words are transferred to the page without effort. Something like this? I cannot give any more definite description in your language.
Later Mary contributed a little to the subject as follows.
We have books, or the spirit counterpart of books. They are composed of etheric substance, but can be read by spirit sight, and enjoyed by the students and teachers here. They are not quite as earth books are, but are still something within the touch and sight of spirit, and can be read at any time. How could we store up the histories of worlds, or the progress of other planet life, if we only saw the present? Our teachers of history are wonderful in their learning and their memory, but they prepare the lessons given to others from the books that are within the reach of all in the libraries here.
Chapter 9, Spirit Life. With most people, the mind is so completely ruled by the material senses that they are almost incapable of conceiving or understanding spirit life in any way. Any idea of life without material bodies is almost unthinkable. The effort to bring such a conception within the bounds of comprehension is so great that no doubt it is a factor, and possibly a large one, in making the general public inclined to shy at any mention of spirits. The prospect of mental effort is apt to make most of us wary in approaching subjects requiring much thought. One's thought about a spirit being is apt to be confused with impressions formed by ghost stories, something unreal, something to be doubted, because contrary to our usual sense conceptions. I presume we must have expressed some such impression to cause the following to be written.
I am here just as surely as you are there, and more so, because I am all that life can give, and you still have the limitations of material life, which prevents the fullness of spiritual expression.
But you do not seem real, we said.
Reality is something that exists. We exist, mind exists, and all the things created by mind exist as long as the mind holds them in existence. We exist, but not in material form. But spirit is higher in the scale of existence than matter. Therefore, we are more real than we were in our material forms. Life here is reality, and we have spiritual forms far better than the earthly ones. All the finer qualities of mind and soul are expressed by us in greater degree than before we lived the spiritual life. There is no life but spirit anywhere in the universe, but the material envelope in which it is enclosed oftentimes hinders free expression. We are trying to free the spirit a little from its earthly encumbrances and let it see its destination out among the stars.
Can you tell us of your life there?
Life here is sane and normal, and any other description is an injustice. But we are not here for amusement, though we may be amused. We are here for knowledge and work, knowledge of spiritual conditions, work for the earth people that they may learn these conditions.
Do you have no pleasures?
Do you think that the things that influence you there, such as music and all that brings you inspiration, are not the things that give us happiness here? Have you any conception of what the music of this life could be? As to pleasures, pleasure of companionship here is largely dependent on congeniality as it is there. Do not think that arrival here causes lives to be suddenly transformed. Life is a growth here as there. Happiness is a relative term. All human faculties are here spiritualized and enlarged. We are given the finest education in all conceivable lines, and thus fitted for helping others. With spiritual power comes occupation in the highest sense, for we become teachers and lead others along the paths we have already followed. Some are fitted for one work, some for another, but all are in happy and congenial employment. This is our work. Pleasure is work, and work is pleasure. But we have many pleasures besides. You might say, earth's highest pleasures idealized. For heaven is real and earth the shadow, spirit the reality and matter the unreality. Worth is of more value than beauty, but worth expresses itself in beauty. When the spirit first arrives, it is not more beautiful than the earth life expressed, but becomes beautiful in proportion to spiritual advancement. All spirits are fairer than their earthly envelope, and increase in beauty as the spirit progresses. Life is good when character is good, but not when character is evil. We must overcome evil and change it into good. That is our mission.
If all become perfectly good, it would almost seem as though life would become monotonous.
We have more varieties of goodness than the mortal life can show. You will be surprised at the difference in individuals on a plane where none are perverse or wicked. Then think of the different occupations and industries, the different arts and sciences, of travel to other worlds and the wonders revealed there. Think of oratory, music, poetry, and the light and winsome touches that writers of humorous literature have brought to this side, and you will realize a little how, instead of monotony, we have infinite variety.
We had been asking some rather deep questions about life in general, and a teacher came one evening with the following in answer.
Life is an unknown quantity. Even we here do not analyze, nor control, nor dissect, nor understand. It is, that is all. Now what are we to do with it? Earthbound minds are dealing with earthly materials. Money, food, dress. But all of these are like vanishing shadows to us. What then shall we do with this wonderful extension of our powers and existence? Forever, think of it. To go on and on. How? Let me try to tell you of the how as it seems to us. You have already had glimpses of our activities, but only glimpses. It is not possible to outline perfectly all of our interests and work. They are wide as the universe, as different as the thought of man or spirit. Wonder upon wonder, marvel upon marvel, unfold to our growing vision, and life is never for one instant lacking in interest. Nevertheless, it is best to focus our attention, study, and thought on those things most interesting to each personality. Some choose science, some philosophy, some invention, some the studies of other universes and other lives. The thought of this circle is directed in various ways, with Mary, your instructor, as our leader. She wishes us to come in contact with earthly minds and help those minds to greater influence through spiritual guidance. Therefore, one of our activities is, as you know, communication with Earth. This is only one of several, however. Mary is also interested in sound vibrations. Therefore, music is one of our studies, as well as one of our pleasures. And I wish I could take you out with us sometime when we are far away in the study of astronomy. We can see far more with spirit sight than even the perfected instruments of human wisdom and learning can discern. Then we can travel, as no mortal can conceive, and we can study at first hand some of the problems of other planets and other lives. This is one more activity, but do not think that our studies stop here. The history of life on the other planets, for instance, is very absorbing. If anyone feels impelled to take up any study, he is not held back from progress. No one is limited in time or opportunity. If it can come within the scope of this circle, well and good. If more can be learned elsewhere, the student is free to go. Love and friendship prevail everywhere, and the best good of all is the one idea for all. We have no limits to our hopes nor our opportunities, as I said. Help us from your side to realize and make actual the communication between the two worlds.
We spoke one evening of the number in the circle with whom we had talked, and were told there were still some whom we did not know, but who were getting acquainted with us rapidly. We replied rather lightly that we doubted if that profited them much. Mary quickly responded,
If they are satisfied, you ought to be. You can be very nice, and you can be very bad. That is when you doubt us and will not let us come. But we take you as you are, and hope you will take us in the same way. We are not saints by any means, just mortals, with the mortal part mostly eliminated and something a little finer in its place. But this something finer must grow through discipline and education even as it did on earth. And we are trying to help you to begin your education now, so that you will not have such a weary way to travel here as many earth lives do. We are here in the room with you and can see you plainly. Only we see your soul lives far plainer than your physical ones. But we are glad of that, for so we see the beautiful part of your spirit lives that are coming to us later.
We had been told much of the future life, but found we had nothing of life's origin. Our various questions brought out the following.
What is life? We do not know. It is like the answer we have to give in regard to the supreme deity. It is. That is all we know. God is life, and life is the gift of God. What this most subtle, most unseeable, most elusive, no, we cannot discover it. It simply is. That is all. Some philosophers and scientists may think they know, but they do not. It is the riddle of the universe, and only the creator of the universe holds the secret in his soul. All life is of spirit origin, though manifesting itself in such manifold and even grotesque forms. The wide diversity comes from the material envelope, and in what Darwin called adaptation to environment. Spirit is indestructible, not subject to disease or death. But the earthly form in which for a time it manifests itself may be subject to all the accidents and disease of mortal existence. I do not know all universes, nor all the ways of life in them, but I think all immortal spirits are always first in human form, and subject to material conditions, and come out of these conditions according to the laws of spiritual evolution. Life here is still progressing to higher forms, and will finally reach a perfection as yet undreamed even by us of the lower planes.
I asked about the origin of individual life.
Your individual life commenced with your soul or spirit, which holds the germ of immortal life. The germ of that soul may have started far back, even in the animal creation. But germs are not souls, and the animal is not the man. For all practical purposes, and for all knowledge of life as we see it, your individual life commenced with your birth. To go back of that leads into such obscurity and confusion that it is hardly worthwhile.
This reply did not satisfy our curiosity, and shortly afterward we asked Professor James of our origin. Where were we before birth? He replied rather decidedly.
Give it up. We have to. There is a limit to our knowledge for which we at present ought to be thankful.
But we persisted in our query and again asked Mary about individual life. Where did it come from?
Where did it come from? What did you hear once of the germ of life and its first entrance into the human? It may have been long on its way, but at last it reached the ultimate of earth existence.
I meant a certain individual life.
Well, the individual life comes from human lives immediately preceding it, and is perhaps not so much of a spiritual problem as you think. Simply the process of creation, which is part of the law of human existence laid down for earthly progeny since the beginning of this mortal existence.
You mean that it is just a human creation?
Just that. It is part of the life germ as it pertains to human existence. I believe that once an individual human life is started, it persists through all eternity. But the subject is so big that I would rather leave it for other teachers to express.
The next evening she said,
I was thinking of that germ of life proposition, and wish to state it differently. I think that the life force is a part of the individual at all times, and the life force of the parent simply appears in a new expression. The same as seed puts forth plant, leaf, flower, and seed, to spring again in another form, yet bearing the marks of its progenitors.
We asked about the continuance of unborn lives. We had been told that they persisted.
That is the truth that is generally accepted by us of this plane. But you must remember that we are not conversant with all the problems of all the truths made known to more advanced students. We learn much, but each circle takes up different studies largely of their own choosing. I have not been particularly interested in the query of the whence, as you put it. The whither attracts me more.
One evening we asked a teacher from a higher plane to tell us something of life on those planes.
We learn of the higher powers and studies, and we are here to tell others what we have learned. This we are always glad to do for those who are truly interested. Come with me and see the life on a higher plane. No jar or discord to mar the perfect joy of life. All are occupied with the perfecting of many new ideas and many new forms of activity. Ever increasing knowledge and joy in service. You know to a certain extent of the occupations, but there are others more ethereal in character given to the more advanced powers. Millions of worlds are needing help, and our higher spirits are sent in as many directions as the needs require. Millions of needs require millions of activities, and teachers are coming and going constantly from world to world, from universe to universe, with helpful forces of thought and spirit control. For in many of the outlying planets, mind is not so dense as upon the Earth, and the spiritual impression can be sent to the thought to manifest outwardly in action.
These teachers are interested in other worlds, as they say, but the list evidently includes our own, for one of them spoke as follows.
I am here from another plane, and wish to say a few words for Earth people to hear. Will you tell them that spirit is the only life? And the nearer they come to spiritualizing Earth life, the nearer they come to us. Will you tell them that the need of the world lies in spiritualizing all Earth life and bringing the Christ love to be the rule of life?
To show that we might do more than is done in spiritual development, one of these teachers told us of the power of thought.
Thought is the force, the power here that creates. With this marvelous power, we can surround ourselves with the environment we wish, create the conditions we wish, and so progress or retard our lives as we wish. The parallel of this power exists in mortal will and mortal thought, and if studied, directed, and persistently used, is capable of enlarging all mortal power, increasing all mortal success, and enhancing all mortal happiness.
The power of thought through suggestion was spoken of one evening rather unexpectedly. D wrote,
There is one here who is listening to words from Earth, and he thinks we are not making clear enough the power of spirit to manifest itself upon human character. He says, remember the spirit, the immortal you, is ever present, ever ready to receive suggestion. Have a care, you people of Earth, that you do not stifle this voice from heaven, for through the Spirit the heavenly life may be begun on earth.
But we are told that the Spirit is not always good.
That is true, yet even then it can be trained to receive the education from here. I would save all criminals, even degenerates, through suggestion to their souls. It can be done, for I tried it while on earth.
Are you a hypnotist?
No, not that. But one strongly impressed with the power of suggestion. It might be well to hypnotize criminals at first, but the suggestion can be made otherwise. Sleep is nature's way of rendering the human mind passive, and this condition might well be used to bring the soul of the criminal into higher thought.
We have been reading a message from that side stating that we are born with quality of consciousness, and some possibly have so little that no improvement is possible.
Yes, we know that, too. But that is no reason for supposing that all are lacking quality, and because of this, other environment and other influence should be tried. Will you give this emphasis in your book?
Can you tell us who you are?
I am a teacher who is studying here as I studied there, the best way of turning evil into good, or rather, effacing evil by good.
Did you use suggestion when here?
I used it there and had success with it. I belong to the French school of thought at Nancy, and other experimental places. What the work did for the undeveloped and the subnormal and the criminal, I can never forget. And I wish to give it such emphasis from here that it shall gain prominence there.
Do you use it on that side?
Yes, we use it and we accomplish much. But we lack one condition that the human life has that is a help, and that is sleep.
After reading some poetry for a time one evening, Sis took up the pencil, and Mary immediately wrote.
I never read poetry on earth, but you are living poetry now, and so am I. The perfect whole of existence, the final harmony, and the outlook beyond. It is all so wonderful and so satisfying. You do not comprehend as we do, but your vision is growing and will continue to grow until you are conscious of the perfect plan of existence. You can only see pieces there, and many very poor pieces. But from here we can discern the whole, though we are not yet living the whole of life. Try to live in the glimpses that give you even vague outlines of this life.
At another time she spoke further.
The life you are now living is but a shadow of the real, the earth experience as compared to this life. We are trying to show you the reality, but impressions are hard to give. The impressions you have received are for the most part true, but the reality is so incredibly more beautiful that we cannot make the impression convey to you a true picture of the reality. If the earth people only knew of the riches of the spirit life which they might inherit if they would, the earth life would become spiritualized and all suffering and hardship would end. All realize it at last. But why waste years and years, sometimes many lifetimes even, before they come to the true spirit life? You may think it enough that at last they do come to the truth. But if you could see the wasted lives and wasted time here, you would desire as fervently as we to hasten the day of their spiritual birth. For of a truth, one must be born into the spirit when earth life has so submerged the spirit that it has almost been lost.
God is all-powerful, we said. Why were we not created good to begin with?
It is of no use to ask why. We do not know. There are many things that we do not comprehend. But we live in the midst of such advanced and beautiful lives that we find it easy to trust. Also, the teachers from the higher planes help us to realize the infinite progression and the infinite goodness, so we trust and grow happy as we grow in faith. We see what you see of the terrible atrocities and suffering on earth, and help where we can, and trust for the rest. The worst cruelties have their limit, for human life ceases when too hard to be born. And when they arrive here, the innocent suffering ones, they are met with peculiar tenderness, and every effort is made to make up to them for the horror and suffering they have endured.
We spoke one evening of the difficulty of convincing some who were always putting forth some new theory to account for spirit manifestation.
Human mind reasons from the material aspect, and it is hard to overcome the logic of that viewpoint, for the spiritual aspect is so beyond all material conception that the human mind stumbles into false reasoning in trying to judge of its future. That is not as I wish to phrase it, but as near as you can get it now. It is knowledge of the truth that we wish to give you, that the close of the earth life may be filled with joyous anticipation rather than fear. Take life as a heavenly gift, both here and there, and know that leaving that life is only a change from a lower into a higher grade, but with such rich advantage as can never be described. Be happy. Let the future be filled with joyous anticipation. Do the good you can there, and be ready to go on doing good here in the happiest possible way, under incomparably happy conditions.
I said I knew that it would all be arranged somehow, but I did sometimes wonder how I, who did not like crowds, could manage there, where people seem to form so much of life.
We are not obliged to be continually with people.
Dee answered.
We meet together for work or teaching, but we may be alone, or with intimate companionship of dear friends when we wish. Nothing is forced on us. We are led to the conditions that are best for our development, and these form our joy as well. You are bound by the knowledge of earthly needs and limitations. But we are free from these and free to choose our occupations. Sissy used to say she would like to be on a cloud and drift slowly through the sky, and something like that still pleasure might be hers here, only not as she expressed it. That was a picture of rest in her mind, and rest was what she needed. The same need or desire here would find perfect fulfillment. That is all.
Sis said she enjoyed so many things here, she wondered if she would not miss some of them there.
Don't worry. You will find the counterpart of every pure joy here, and in greater measure than we can express. Never fear. All the joys that you have there will only be intensified here.
Sis asked if she would be able to enjoy these at first, or would she be some time in learning.
Mary says, there are some things that you will have to wait to understand, but you must take our word for it that they exist. Dee has told you that she has never regret for the earth life and the beauty she left there. All is more than equaled here. Let this fill your heart and mind with joy.
We had been reading a description of the spirit life that did not appeal to us. It was given as a symbolic vision. Mary replied to our inquiries.
Your thought brings you the truth that appeals to you, but it is the truth just the same. Heaven is an unlimited space, and there is room for many ideals. But you will be happier if you hold fast to the truth that appeals to you, for it is the truth. Never doubt that. Many here express truth pictorially or symbolically, but the real truth is the word that describes the life without embellishment or picture. The book you speak of will attract a certain type of mind, Yet other minds would be repelled by such a description, each in his own way. Can you not see? No matter how earth people are drawn into the spirit comprehension, whether by symbol, poetic fancy, or simple description, it will be all right when they arrive here. We are telling you the simple truth, and you may take it to your inmost heart and take the comfort of it. You will never be disappointed, while some others may have to begin all over again in their comprehension of this life.
Sis and I were talking one evening about the life there, and of the difficulty of our finite minds grasping it. When the writing was begun, Dee said,
You get now and then vague ideas or pictures of the comfort and pleasure of this life. But the reality has not entered into your real understanding yet. Sissy is afraid she will have to go on to a higher plane when she doesn't wish to. Is afraid she will not be quite contented here, and will miss some of the surroundings or friends or pleasures of the earth life. She will not. That is all I can say.
Sis laughingly replied that she would miss the picnics.
You can have one then. You are a bad child and don't deserve all you will get. But it will be yours anyway, picnic and all.
Many people have communicated with us, and through the pencil to others. One who passed over as an old man was talking with his grandson. Closing the conversation, he said,
The tie between the two worlds, or rather the one world of the seen and the unseen, grows closer as the years go by. I did not know much about this life when there, but I imagined more than I knew. The normal life here was a surprise, for I had thought of angels with wings and harps, and heaven as a city of golden streets. But nothing of the kind is here. Normal progression. Friends, work, service for others, yes. Happiness, in travel, music, books, and congenial companions. It is all normal and all true. It is worth working for there. And all the work is simply to have high ideals and live up to them. The golden rule is no dead letter. Be sure of that.
I spoke one evening of that being my birthday. Mary responded,
What of it? You will have millions of them.
Then in a moment she went on.
We are not thinking of birth at all. It is always the present here. No looking forward to old age and decrepitude of either mind or body. The future is ours. The present is ours. How different from the half-fear of the future, the dread of the years that may bring hardships, the looking forward to the silence of the grave, and the terror of the future. Can you see? I was not happy on earth, but I feared the end of that life, and had rather a morbid terror of death. Will you see the difference now? Nothing to fear, neither sickness, poverty, age nor death. Why count the years, when each passing one will only add to your happiness and power, and preserve forever both youth and beauty? Goodbye to birthdays. Greet the future with joy that will take no cognizance of years.